formal introduction. After that, you can start.
Sure, sure. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Subhashri from BTech CSC third year. I'm excited to be the host of today's event. In this moment, I vividly remember this quote: "A founder can carry an institution only so far, and then others have to step in, even the alumni. That's how an institution becomes one." It makes sense, right? So I welcome everyone gathered here in this virtual platform for the 16th ALUMNI Interaction Series on Technical Talk on AngularJs. I feel immense pleasure in welcoming Dr. S. Geeta, HOD of CSE Department, and the organizing secretaries. I feel immense pleasure in welcoming Dr. S. Geeta, HOD of CSE Department, and Dr. Dinesh Kumar, Additional HOD of CSE Department, and the organizing secretaries, Mr. Syed Ali and Mr. Samuda, and my fellow students, and our honorable guest speaker, Mr. Naveenkumar, Senior Software in Fort Chennai. Now I request our HOD, Dr. S. Geeta, to address. Now I request our additional HOD, Dr. Dinesh Kumar, to address the gathering.
Yes, thank you, Subhastri. Good afternoon, one and all. Is it audible there? I would like to, on behalf of Department of Computer Science Engineering, I will welcome all third year students for this alumni interaction series. All third year students, please make a use of the alumni. Now we settled in full stack as a full stack developer in Ford, Chennai. He has a very good experience in that. So you juniors, you make use of that one, then make the note it, and I wish you all to come up with flying colors. Okay. So please make the interaction with your senior people. What are the full stack regarding the full stack development, the AngularJs and all. Okay. So I would like to welcome Naveenkumar, our alumni, 2015 to 19 batch, CSE batch. Welcome, Naveenkumar.
Yeah. Thank you, Dinesh Kumar sir. Yeah. Hi all.
Yes, you are welcome. Yes, thank you. You can proceed.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Hi all. Myself Naveen. So I have completed BTech engineering in MGR University from 2015 to 2019, and currently I'm working in Ford Motors Private Limited. So I have total 3 years of experience in Angular, Spring Boot application, Java, Python, and Vue.js, under some small languages. So I'm working as a senior software engineer. So let me share my screen and then show you, giving a overview of Angular framework. So let me share my screen. Yeah. Okay. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, it's there, visible there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
proceed.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Today, there is many technologies available in the market, but
hello, Mr. Naveen.
Yes. Yeah.
So 1 second, we want to have a introduction about you to the student audience here. Okay. Please, 2 minutes. They will introduce you to the audience. They should know and they should inspire by looking into your profile.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
With this, I ask Mr. Naveenkumar from BTech CSE third year to give the guest introduction.
Good afternoon, all. I am Trivikraman from third year CSE department. I really welcome Mr. Naveenkumar. Welcome, sir. He's a 2019 passed out and a reputed alumni of our university. He's currently working in Ford as senior software engineer, and he also worked as associate software engineer in CiviSoft from 2019 to 2021. He's a skilled full stack developer, and he knows a wide range of programming languages. He has also worked in numerous projects with knowledge of technologies like Spring Boot, Java, MySQL, Cassandra, and Angular. And he also created an responsive user interface, which could be responsive even in cross-origin devices with the Angular framework. While working in Medimix, he created a web application which can count the number of products automatically by camera using OpenCV technology and Tesseract training model. And his pro skills include Java, Angular, Spring Boot, MongoDB, and so much more. We are glad to have such a skilled person like you here, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Vikram. And now I'm handing over the session to Mr. Naveenkumar.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, as I said, there is many technologies available in today market. For example, from front-end perspective, we are having React.js, AngularJS, Vue.js, and some kind of UI framework is available. And for backend, we are having Node.js, Spring Boot application, and then whatever. So there is many technologies available front end as well as the for backend application. So today we are going to see Angular framework. So regarding the components and then routers, so everything. So let me show you. Yeah. Today's agenda is I'm giving overview of the Angular components, directives, pipelines, communication components, and then the overall life cycle, the form, service dependent injections, and then HTTP routers, HTTP. So these are all the available components which are used in Angular framework. So yeah. So basically, Angular is developed by Google. So they are providing many support to the Angular. So it will be available for mobile application as well as all the platform. So not only Windows, Linux. So all the platform it will be available, and it will be a client-side application. So using TypeScript. So we can have TypeScript as well as the JavaScript as well. So we'll create a components. Actually, anybody knows HTML, CSS, and JavaScript? Anybody? Hello? Am I audible? Hello? Yeah, Vamsi. Hello?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay. So anybody knows HTML, CSS, JavaScript as of now? So have you developed some sample programs? Okay, let me give some overview of it. Okay, basically HTML contains tag related things, and then CSS is only for styling purpose, and then JavaScript and TypeScript having the scripts actually. So JavaScript and TypeScript is similar, so there is no more difference. Just we have in TypeScript we are able to reach component to component communication, but JavaScript we have to manually call by any identifier. So that's the difference between TypeScript and JavaScript. So components. So let me come to the components. Like in Angular perspective, all the components were created. For example, if you are creating a web page, so we can create particular section as a component. For example, you can create a header in a separate component. So we can call the header overall in the application just using the tag name. So let me show it in the application directly. So this is the production application which we are using. So for example, this is a project structure actually. Basically, if you create a project, it will be create some kind of dependencies and then the files which are related to the Angular application. So basically, it is having package.json. So these package.json contains your dependencies and your scripting functionalities and then the name of the application. So everything will be written in the package.json. So here you can add a dependencies. So dependencies available in npm.com. So you can use your dependencies, whatever you need, some plugins or some tools. So we can find it and use it accordingly. So just you can import the dependencies here, and then if you run npm install, it will create all the dependencies in the local application. So the node modules having the all of the repositories, dependencies, tools, plugins, everything will be installed in the node modules. So and the main thing is our source application. So this is the code so which we are developing. So everything will be written in the source file. So here, for example, if you are creating an application or web application, so the Angular is full and full web application based. So we can create web applications in a cloud perspective. So for example, if you are creating an web application, you can create each and every section as a component. For example, yeah, here you can see footer is a component. So we can write only footer related things in the footer.html, footer component.html. So we can create a components, and then the CSS. So CSS and SCSS nothing but a styling. So we can write stylings in the CSS and SCSS, and then the TypeScript. So these are all the main thing which we interact from the HTML to the JavaScript. So if you are writing the JavaScript and TypeScript here, so it will interact with the HTML page. So HTML page will render in the DOM. So we have multiples of component created here, like a footer, header, navigation bar, sidebar. So these are really common components. So if you create a component once, so we can use anywhere in the in the application. So just calling by the selector. So this is the selector. So we can call the selector, and then we can invoke this component in anywhere of the application. So this that's it from component side. Yeah. So the component having some bindings, actually data bindings. So we can pass data from one component to another component, and then we'll invoke one component in another components. So that's what the component does. And then directives. So directives is nothing but for example, if you need to write some logics in the HTML page, the DOM itself. So we can able to do it in the HTML page directly. For example, you don't need to worry about I have to write some for loops in the HTML page. So this will take care of that things actually. For example, this is a ng4. So you can use the ng4, and then you can pass the array or object. So if you pass the object, it will automatic loop. So you can loop the data in the HTML page itself, and then switch, if, class, styles. So these are all the directives. So we can use it in the HTML page, and then it will interact with the your TypeScript and then the HTML page. So yeah, so all the data will be available in the TypeScript. So this will be invoked in the HTML page, and then HTML. So likewise, for example, here we have created a variable. So the test. Okay. So I can invoke the test into the HTML page directly. So if we need to do some logics, or if you need to check some conditions, if you need to check, add some styling, so whatever, so we can use directives. So that's what the directives does. And then the pipes. So pipes is nothing but, for example, you are getting some data in the TypeScript. Okay. So here you are getting some data. So this will having some predefined format. For example, here you can see the time and then the date in some specific format, for some default format. If you need to format, so we can alter by our way, but this pipeline is worked as for the whole application. If you implement the pipelines in date, so whenever you are accessing this component, it will format accordingly. When gives you the output, it will format the data accordingly. So that's what the pipeline does. So we can use custom pipelines or date pipelines, or synchronized or synchronized pipelines, or key value pairs. So key value pair is nothing but an object. For example, you are aware on JSON. So JSON is nothing but key pair value. So object is I mean, that is an object. So for example, we don't need to create all the I mean, for example, you have a form. So form containing username, password, age, and then date of birth, and then mobile number. So you don't need to create a variable for the 5 fields. So we can just create as an object, and that object containing all the key and pair values. So we can create an object. So object is nothing but maybe an array, or JSON format, whatever. So whatever we create, so based on that, we'll interact with from the HTML page, and then your I mean, client side scripting file. So here, as we see, so we are having multiples of pipelines here. So we can create custom pipelines as well as predefined pipelines. Okay. And then communication between the components. For example, yeah. So here we have footer and header. So I need to give some data from footer to header. So I can give the data. Like example, we are having some input and output tags. So that will gives you the data from one component to another component. Let me check, is it available? So I don't think it having some child and parent component. So here you can see we are creating some variables, and then using constructor, if you need any data to be invoked in the constructor, we can return here. And then the ng initialization, that will comes under life cycle. So that I will show you. So yeah, here you can give a input or output tags. So that will invoke parent and child combination. So based on that, it will interact from one component to another component. So you can pass the data from some other components to user profile. So that will gives you the input. So as we can see, the Angular application full and full single page oriented, single page application. For example, if you are using HTML page, CSS directly, like website, so that won't have single page application. For example, if you are using Facebook, so that is not a single page. I mean, that's a single page application. That is not a multi-page application, because if you are navigating from one page to another page, it won't reload the page. It's just redirect to the another component without reloading the page. So that's it. That's what called single page application. So it will reduce the timing of the loading, and then it will also ensure for the performance also. So once it is loaded in the DOM, for example, the HTML page, once you open the HTML page, it will run all the components from the top to bottom. If you if you are using any frameworks, Angular or Vue or React, it will, for example, if you are initiating the application itself, it will load all the data, all the HTML, all the dependencies, everything. It will be load, and then it will give the it will create that container. So that all the component is active. So just if you open the one page, then all the component is loaded predefined, loaded previously. So don't need to load the dependencies once again. So it will, the performance will be higher. So that's what the Angular does. So Angular, React, and Vue.js, it is all having the single page application components. Yeah. So here we can pass data from parent to child and then child to parent. So this is the communication components. Okay. And then life cycle. So life cycle, nothing but if you are working in some components. So let me show. Yeah. If you are working in some user profile component, here having multiples of my life cycles. Actually, when you open user profile, so at that time, if you need to do some logics, for example, if the page opens, then at beginning I need to do this work. For example, on init nothing but when the page hit, it will go to this method first. Actually, so it will do the all the work initially. So and then it go to other process. For example, we have multiples of life cycle in AngularJS, like on init, on destroy. So when the component is initiated, it will goes to on init. If you are going to any other component, any other page, then the page will be destroyed. And then on change is nothing but if you are changing some data in the component in the page, so that will goes to the on change. So you can if anybody enters some data or edited some, modified some data in the page, so it will goes to the on change method. So here we are having many kind of life cycles here. So based on that, the component will be a React. Okay. And then the forms. So forms is nothing but for example, we are creating some UI forms actually. So that is having all the components, all the field components like text box, number field, password field, checkbox, radio box. So we are having predefined Angular forms. If you are using some material, so Angular having some own materials, Angular materials. So we can just import the dependencies and then just invoke the same examples from the Angular forms, and then we can create forms. So once again. Yeah, here we can see Angular material. So here all the dependencies available. So you can just need to check in the repository, and then you can install the dependencies. We don't need to create by our word. So everything is available in the market. Just you have to go through the forms, and if you need any kind of implementation, you can just Google it. So it will give multiples of tools. So you can check some free source free source licensed dependencies or any paid versions. So based on your needs. So just use the dependencies to invoke here, and then you can use the dependencies in the components as well. So yeah, so we can create these forms from the Angular material itself. So yeah, and then the service dependencies. So dependencies is nothing but we are injecting something from components to components. For example, we have some service layers actually. For example, the components is different, service is different. So service is only related to the data which is coming from any outside of the source, and then it will manage these data inside the application as well. So we can create some services in the application as well. So for example, we are having some REST API calls in the application. We don't need to, we are not going to use Angular framework just to only the front end. We must have to use some backends. So for any REST APIs or something else. So if you are having any REST APIs, then definitely we have to create some services. So the services contains only the interaction between the server and then the client. So we can get the data from the server and then invoke that data and inject, use that in the application. So when the service is implemented, we need to inject the services into the components as well. So that's what the dependency injection does actually. And then form validations. So form validation is nothing but if you are having some fields, if you are having some sign up forms, so you must have to validate that each and every fields. For example, for username, you have to validate some space. So you don't need to allow to use spaces and some symbols. So for password, you have some criteria. So based on the criteria, we have to create the form fields actually. So for a age field, that is a numerical field. You don't need to allow characters. So alphabetical characters, you don't need to allow. So likewise, we have to create some validation. These are also available in Angular materials. Also, we can also able to create some pipelines. For example, if it is a text field, I only need to allow these are all the characters. So you can create pipelines or some validators from the Angular material, or you can create some custom validator. So we can set accordingly, watch based on our needs actually. So yeah, HTTP. So this is the main thing. What client and then server interaction. For example, you are deploying your application in server. The backend application deployed in this server. So you can have multiples of backend services. For example, you have some services for only managing the user management. Okay, that we can create a separate service for user management. If you are having some payment related data, so you can only manage payment related things in the separate services. You for example, you are having some other clients data, so you can manage separate services for client services. So if you are having multiple services from backend, you don't need to worry about particular service. For example, if you are having some issues in payment, so only that service will be down. So all these services will be up and live. So you only the payment will be affected. So other services won't affect actually. So we are having multiples of services in the backend deployed in the server, like AWS or Azure or GCP. So whatever. So we can deploy our applications there. So if you are having some REST APIs in the servers, just we have to invoke from the client side. So we have to request from the client side. Here we are having two things. One is request, and then another one is response. For example, you are creating some forms in the UI application. So you are entering some data. For example, you need to log in. You must have to username and then password. And then if you click sign in, it will request to the server, says that the username is this and the password is this. So that data will be sent through the HTTPS or HTTP through some HTTP services, like we are having get, put, post, delete, patch. So these are all the HTTP services which is commonly available. Yeah, someone is raised a hand. Hello. Okay, if any doubts, we'll discuss end of the session. Okay. Actually, HTTP is nothing but the request from the client side to the backend. So we have to request some data from the server. So we are requesting, we are sending a request to the server. The server check your logics and check your data, and then do the logics and then return some data. So returning is nothing but the response. If you are requesting, that will give the response immediately. If it is having some issues or anything, whatever the thing, it will give some response. So maybe it will take some time, or we will get immediate response. Maybe according our logics, it will take some time, or it will give the immediate response from the server actually. So here we have get HTTP. So get HTTP is nothing but only it will get the data. It won't give you data to the server actually. For example, you are having some REST API with get method, so it will only get the data. It won't give in the request itself. Okay, and then the post is nothing but you can give some data to the server, and the server will give you a response actually. So that is nothing but post actually. And then this put is nothing but you are going to update something. So already the data is posted in the database, and then you have to do some manipulation top on the data. So you can use put actually. For delete, you can use delete method. So it will give you I mean, you can just pass the ID of the row or something, the primary ID which you are using for the database. I mean, the column which you have created in the database, right? So you can just give the parameter of any primary key from the request itself. Then the backend check for the particular ID in the database, and then it will make some I mean, make some performance, like it will do deletion or updation or put or post. So everything it will be managed in the server side actually. And then HTTP headers, for example, so all the HTTP requests having some headers actually. For example, if you are logged in into your application that is having some authentication, like if you are logged in, so inside each and every request have the tokens actually. So if you are logged in, it will give some token ID. Based on the token ID only, you have to request to the server for each and every API calls. So then only it can authenticate the token. So token contains the user data. So it knows the token is related to this user ID. So if the user ID matches with the authorization of the each and every request, then only it allows to manipulate or do some works in the server actually. If it is not authenticated, it will give some bad I mean unauthorized response from the API side. And then HTTP interceptor. So interceptor nothing but, for example, if you are intercepting something, you are manipulating some kind of request in the client side itself. For example, if you are requesting to some data, uh, interceptor will invoke before requesting to the server actually. So it will, maybe you can you don't need to worry about token have to insert it in each and every calls. So it will manage. If you are intercepting tokens in the interceptor, if when you are requesting to the server itself, all the request will be having the tokens from interceptor. So that's the concept of interceptor. And then the routers. So this is the main thing I already told. So Angular is a single page application. So when you are navigating from one page to another page, it won't reload actually. It's just navigating to the other page. So or we can able to pass some data from one page to another page, or we can just map some location to another page, and then navigating between some pages to another page. And we are having lot many things in routers actually. So let me show some examples. Yeah, here you can see routers. So when the URL hit only the empty path, it will go redirect to the main page. Or if it is auth /auth path, so it will redirect to the load child. It will import this module, and then it will goes to the authentication module. If it is main, it is direct into the main module, and then it can activate auth guard. So for example, if you are log into application, it will check the user if it is having some tokens or not, and then the token is valid or not. If it is not valid, then it will directly push the user to it will directly logged out the user, because the token is not authorized, and then the user is not valid for a particular session. It will sign out your user actually. So you can for example, if you are not login also, you can able to go to some urls, but it won't allow you. So we can guard before itself. If you are coming getting some request, you can check is the user is valid to go to this particular page or not, so that we can validate there. And then the path 404, if you are having any not found pages or any unauthorized pages, so it will redirect to the some particular modules. So that's what here we can see. So based on our path, the header URL path, we can navigate one page to another page. So that's what the router does. And then modules. So here we can create module wise things. For example, one second, let me show. Here is a main module. So main module contains um, um, some certain components, and then we can create multiple modules. The modules will be checked first, and then the components will be checked later. It is like a hierarchy. So for example, the a module having some 4 components, B module having some 2 components. So likewise, we are having multiple components from multiple modules. So we don't need to worry about thing. For example, you are having some user management, that is a particular module. So you can have user management inside that. You can create a user, delete a user, or list a user. So whatever you can do, so just you can create a module separately, and then based on the module, we are having only the particular uh, um, components. That's how the modules were created. So and then that's it. So basically the Angular application works well in a single page application. It is having all the functionalities like interceptor, the routing platform, the creating modules, components, and then we can do stylings based on our needs. We can use CSS, SCSS, and then we directly invoke our JavaScript into our Angular application. And then uh, we are having some predefined modules and predefined dependencies for Angular. So we don't need to worry about creating our own. So we can just import that module, import that dependencies, and then we can use it in the future. Okay. And then so Angular application is pure and full and full. The UI, the client side application. So we have to write some backend logics, backend application. So that will be deployed in the server, AWS or something, GCP or Azure, everything. So once we done with UI, so we can just create a APIs, and then based on the API calls, we can interact between the client and server, and then server will be interact with the database, and then the server actually. So that will take care of the database authentication. So we don't need to worry about that data, how to get the data from the database. So we can use Cassandra, MongoDB, SQL, or any SQL or non-SQL databases in Spring Boot application. Also, we are having Node.js. So we can use the backend as Spring Boot or Node.js application, and we can implement the REST APIs there. So that's it from my side. So if you have any doubts, let me know.
The students can ask doubts or questions if they have any.
Yeah. Nobody is having doubts.
Sir, a student has posted a question in Q&A.
Okay, one second. Yeah, is it possible to nested controls? Control in the sense, what you are, which control you are mentioning, Manish? Yeah, Manish, you can just turn on your mic and then ask your doubts. Hello, Manish. Uh, yeah, Manish. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Now nested many types of controls like if we are going to implement some logic, so can we nested there?
Actually,
Suppose
nested is possible
JavaScript.
in, yeah, nested is possible in overall in the client side application. So what you have to get nested controls actually. For example, if you are having some data, if you are having some objects, so that will having some nested data. For example, yeah, array having multiples of objects, the object having multiples of sub objects. So what you are asking actually, what you are asking the nested controls.
Sir, like we are control statements are there. So simply we are using like Java in the JavaScript. Most of the times we can nested our control. Uh, we can nested our like looping control also there.
Yeah, that is,
Is it
yeah, regression. Yeah, that is a recursive looping actually. So you can also do everything. So in all the front end frameworks, every nested controls is available. Like you can recursively loop each and every data. So we are, for example, if you create a method, so that method you can call the method again and again in the same method actually. So if once you call, if the condition met with the some particular data, then the nested will be I mean exited.
okay, sir?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir. We gained a clear idea about Angular forms, HTTP, Angular modules, and routers.
Yeah.
Now I call Ms. Shweta from BTech CSE third year to convey the vote of thanks.
A warm and graceful afternoon to all. On behalf of all the students and staffs, I'm elated to be standing here to express my vote of thanks. A special thanks to our chief guest, Mr. Naveenkumar sir, for accepting our invitation and for being here with us today. Your words were truly informative. I thank our HOD, Dr. S. Geeta ma'am, and additional HOD, Mr. Dinesh Kumar sir, for supporting and guiding us as always. I also thank Saidali sir and Amuda ma'am for organizing this event and giving us the immense support. I extend my sincere gratitude to all our teachers for their generous support. Last but not the least, I thank our fellow students and each and everyone present here for making the time to be with us today and making this event a memorable one. Once again, I thank you all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sudha.